Kansas is an American rock band that became popular in the 1970s, initially on album-oriented rock charts, and later with hit singles such as Carry On, Wayward Son. What? Wrong Kansas? Oh, okay. Kansas Speedway has been a staple of the NASCAR calendar since it was first opened in 2001, and it's always a favorite on iRacing, even more so now with the newly simulated multi-groove racing. Tonight, it welcomes the virtual stars and virtual cars of the PRL NASCAR Cup Series, and you'll see it all live right here on the Global SimRacing channel. Hi everybody, I'm Joey Tebben, and with me in the booth is Rocco Stallone. Behind the scenes is our director, Zach Johnson, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Kansas is unique among 1.5 mile ovals, and that makes it difficult to master. Let's head over to our track guide to learn more about it.
Welcome to Kansas Speedway. Located 20 minutes west of downtown Kansas City and on the Kansas side of the border, Kansas Speedway is a 1.5-mile D-shaped oval built by International Speedway Corporation and opened in 2001. Following a reconfiguration in the summer of 2012, Kansas Speedway saw its corners go from uniform 15-degree banking to the current progressive banking, starting at 17 degrees down by the white line and working up to 20 degrees near the wall. The change in banking paved way for far more side-by-side action across the board here. A wide track, there are varying philosophies to getting around Kansas. Some prefer the bottom of the track, which while shorter and quicker, can also lead to greater tire wear. Others like to ride around by the wall, using that extra bit of banking for a bigger run off the corner and to conserve tires. A problem spot here at Kansas can be the exit of turn 4, where the car is prone to snapping loose if a driver has too much steering input on corner exit, and the apron can also be especially slippery, particularly just past the start-finish line. The NASCAR Cup Series races here at Kansas twice a year with accompanying races from the Affinity Series, the trucks, as well as ARCA. IndyCar held events here at Kansas from its opening in 2001 all the way through 2010, but has not been back since the repaint. Well, that's our look at Kansas Speedway. Rock Chalk Jayhawk, enjoy the show.
And that was the GSRC track guide, amazing as always. As we round out the last 2.5 minutes of practice here, let's take a look at the track description for Kansas Speedway this week. Rocco, talk us through this place.
Bring it in here. It's a 1.5 miles of Kansas. Nice wide track here. 17 to 20 degrees in the banks. Going to be 145 laps tonight, so it's going to be a lot of time for these guys to find their groove. Speaking of grooves, we will have a little bit of discussion on some racing lines tonight. Should be interesting, but yeah, Kansas is pretty quick. A lot of rooms. We'll see some good runs tonight, Joey, so I'm looking forward to it.
Indeed we will. 145 laps here at Kansas, and we wouldn't be able to show you those 145 laps without our sponsors. Today's race is brought to you by SimMSA. Simulation Motorsports Affinity provides many consulting services, from completely customizing simulators to managing teams, individual drivers, and complete events. They're working hard to bring everyone together at one place to support and promote sim racing internationally. Find out how you can bridge the gap between virtual and real motorsports at SIMMSA.net.
That's right, Joey. And also tonight, PRL NASCAR Cup Series, also brought to us by NinjaTrader. Ready to compete against financial markets, supporting over 60,000 users across the globe. NinjaTrader provides award-winning trading software and brokerage services. NinjaTrader is always free to use for advanced charting, backtesting, and trade simulation. Visit NinjaTrader.com to get started with your risk-free trading simulator and start tracking your performance today.
And today's broadcast is also proudly sponsored by ButtKicker. ButtKicker products add an incredible immersion and realism to any game. Feel every nuance and truly put yourself in the driver's seat. Check them out at thebuttkicker.com. As practice winds down, 30 more seconds of hot laps here for our drivers. We will go into a 5-minute 2-lap qualifying session. But before we do that, let's take a look at the Drivers' Championship here in the PRL NASCAR Cup Series. Rocco talks through these drivers up here.
Yeah, so it's kind of getting into the meat of the season here as we look at some of the standings here. I'm trying to get them here. No problem. So we got Regan Jr. on top, 183 points, closely followed, 8 points behind by Matthew Long. Third spot is inhabited by James O'Brien, 14 points behind that. Really tight race. And still right up in there, Bradley Holly in the fourth spot with the Waterback Racing vehicle. And right behind him, rounding out the top 5, we got Charles Sumner, who's 39 points back, still time to make a move on this championship.
And then in the team standings, no surprise at the top. You saw their drivers in first and third. Private label Team Hype at the top with 421 points. Then it's Waterback Racing, Black in second. James Bird Racing, Connor Hall Esports, and SGE Esports round out your top 5. And we'll take a look at the race details tonight as qualifying begins. Round 6 of 10, 145 laps, as I said. We got no spare car. It's an open setup, so the drivers are free to tinker with their setups however they like. And there's a 24 incident limit. Rocco, do you think we're going to run into that 24 incident limit like we did at Martinsville a couple weeks ago?
I don't think so. I think these guys got a little bit more time and space out there. So I do feel we'll see a few less cautions, hopefully. So we'll see. I think we'll still see some close racing, though. But as far as the yellow extravaganza we had, I don't think we're in for that tonight.
Right now we're looking at one of our first qualifiers. That's Joshua Daniels in the number 77 car driving for Connor Hall Esports. We'll see how his first lap comes out here. You can see him running the high line on his first lap here. Rocco, why do some drivers spend their first lap running the high line instead of taking the fastest line on both laps?
Well, there's a lot of different theories on qualifying at every track, but the high line seems to have the most grip, at least in this build. It seems like it's the way to get around. Of course, the shorter distance you would think here, as you see him duck in as deep as they'll go, would be the quickest way around. But obviously, you're going to go as fast as you want. Also building up speed. It's kind of like Talladega. You see him dropping down now and hoping to get the most speed going into that low line.
Right now it's Trent Dinkle on top, but you can see the first real lap. I say real lap, the first lap where they weren't running the top building up speed. Patrick Cowgill has run a 29.286, but as Joshua Daniels comes to the line, will he be able to beat that? Yes, he will. By 0.02 of a second, Joshua Daniels goes to the pole position at the moment.
Right, and just was looking at the early practice times, and Waldo Walden was on top of the practice charts. Looks like the quickest lap he's got so far, 29.4, so a little slower in the qualifying lap than he was in practice.
2 minutes 30 remaining in qualifying. We see Walden come down the front straight to set his final lap. Where's Walden go? Regan Jr. goes to pole, and Walden stays in 8th place, a 10th and a half back.
Yeah, Joey, just not able to find that speed that he had in the practice run. I wonder if the track temperatures changed or something to do with that setup.
Here's the third place driver in the championship, James O'Brien in that number 9 car. The private label Team Hype team. His teammate Richard Regan Jr. is on pole right now. Let's see what O'Brien can pull off here.
And these laps are going to go by quickly. These guys, again, running 29-second laps around Kansas, so not a lot of room for error on short laps at this pace.
Interesting to see that O'Brien didn't seem to take the outside line on both laps. Maybe he thinks that the technique is just to run the fastest lap you can. Both times. We'll see if it pays off as he comes to the line. His fastest lap before was 29.3, and he does a 29.224, puts him P2 right alongside his teammate.
Yeah, and Reagan's still holding up there with that 29.18. Very quick time around this track. I think it's going to hold up, but still a few more laps to go for a couple guys. But I think we're looking at the meat of our starting lineup here, Joey.
Here comes the 519 Joao Guerra. Looks like it's going to stay P19 for Guerra, but Bradley Holly has come to the line. He's always a threat, especially at these 1.5 mile tracks as he comes to the line. Can he challenge Richard Regan Jr. up top? No, he can't. He's behind both of the private label Team Hype cars, and he'll start in the second row.
I think it's worth noting that the top 10 guys are separated by 1/10 of a second, Joey.
Yep, this is virtual NASCAR Cup racing at a very, very high level. And when you're at this high of a level, those gaps in qualifying are small as can be. This is no A fixed race. This is a league race with some of the best NASCAR Cup racers on the service. Right now, we're looking at the 67 car. That is, who is the 67 car? It's Pat Harvey. Pat Harvey finishes up his run. He will stay P19 at the moment, half a second off the pole position, but time is up in qualifying. And Richard Regan Jr. is on pole. Take a look through the grid here once everyone's loaded up. But no surprises, it will be Richard Regan Jr. on pole. Once we get to see everybody, qualifying is just coming to an end here, and the session has ended. So we see Richard Regan Jr., James O'Brien on the front row. Teammates followed by Bradley Holly and Joshua Daniels. Then Mark Kalin, he always qualifies up front. He's in P5 alongside Patrick Cowgill in 6th. Then it's Charles Sumner, 5th in the championship alongside Trent Dinkle. And row 5 is the second place driver in the championship, Matthew Long, alongside Brandon Walter.
That's right, Joey. And second grouping back here, we got 11th and 12th spot, Adam Zemke. Although Walden, again, quickest in practice, not able to follow up that pace here in qualifying. On row 7, Taylor Stout alongside Barrett Hilton. 15th and 16th, we got Michael Lemieux alongside of Luka Zvikov in the 16th spot. Michael Witt in 17th spot, Chad Brown in 18th. And then row 10 is Pat Harvey and Colton Lane.
Then we go down to the final drivers to set a lap in qualifying. Joao Guerra, 21st, followed by Thomas A. Roberts. Then John Hopley and Jose the Funky Cold Medina. James J. Dewar was the last driver to set a time in qualifying, and he will start P25. Then it's Abner Acosta, Elliott White, Robert Besaw Jr., William Farmer, Ed Fowler. In the last row, Doug Evans and Terry R. Marinaro. So it's no surprise to see the private label Team Hype drivers up front, but as we sit on the grid here and as we leave the pits, Rocco, who do you think is going to be their main challengers tonight?
Oh, well, again, it's one of those things where we see guys perform in qualifying and we see a complete different thing here in the race. But obviously you get a good feel. Richard Regan Jr. has a great feel for this track alongside his buddy James O'Brien and Bradley Holly. You know, those three guys with a lot of space out here. I could see these guys really trying to gap the field early on. But you never know. We can have a dark horse in there. Like I said, Walden fast and in practice, you know, and always a few names that'll show up toward the end. So I'm excited to see the outcome of this, and we're almost there.
Yeah, in fact, fastest in practice, running around other cars. That could be a very good indicator of Walden's race pace. But as we navigate through turns 3 and 4, we're going to come to the green flag here. It's a beautiful day here in Kansas. A little bit cloudy, but nothing too bad. Lots of fans in the virtual stands. They're ready to get this thing started.
Yeah, I'm sure these drivers are ready to give it a go, too. They've been waiting all weekend to get some league racing going on. So let's light them up and let's go, Joey.
Pace car peels off onto pit road. Richard Regan Jr. will lead the field to green. He waits a little bit for the green flag to come out, but the green flag is in the air, and we're racing at Kansas. It's a good start from Holly. He's all over the back of Richard Regan Jr. As you can see, a massive gap between the high line and the low line. But on lap 1, the low line definitely has the advantage. Holly pulls up to second, following Regan Jr.
Yeah, and that low line with a good jump going really low off the green, using all that track that they had available to him. And as you said, there was extremely large gap in between the two lines. Interesting start.
Now they got to be careful on lap 1. Cold tires and just one wiggle, that can set you into a holding pattern of just losing the rear every lap. But luckily, it looks like everyone's managed to keep those tires underneath them, keep all 4 of them going straight. And Richard Regan Jr. Oh, caution. Is there a caution at the back of the field?
I was looking at Regan. That tail end was looking to come out. I don't know if you saw that, but he was holding on to that for dear life.
He was. I saw a couple wiggles throughout the field, and I was wondering if drivers were going to lose it, but they did not. We've kept it rolling. But Regan Jr. a little bit uncomfortable in the lead, it seems.
Yeah, we got a caution in the back. Now, sorry to interrupt you, Joey, but yeah, we did eventually get that. I didn't see who he was, but I saw some smoke way in the back.
I looked away because I thought they would have saved it, but They did not at the end of it. That's Terry R. Marinaro. Started in the 32nd place, still in the 32nd place. We'll see if we can get a replay of that for you to see what happened to Terry.
Looks like your boy Funky Cole Medina got a piece of that, and also looks like looks like him and everybody else got out pretty unscathed.
A little bit of contact between the 55 and the 10, and they're just trying to save it, and it looks like it was just a little bit of an accordion effect. A couple drivers had to slow down, and they got into each other.
Yeah, and unfortunately, you got this really aggressive racing going on in the back. Maybe these guys show a little bit of patience and work their way up a little slower than that.
Yeah, the 24 just backing it up to not hit those cars in front, and he kind of just gets run over by Marinaro there. But when there's that many cars in that little amount of space, that's the kind of thing that can happen. It's unfortunate when you start at the back and you get involved early and you can't capitalize on a caution, but they'll come in, they'll get that repaired, and we'll try and bring it home in a good position.
Yeah, hopefully the damage isn't too bad, because that's it's not a fun night when you get bent up 4 laps into the race and you just kind of have to coast the rest of the night.
Now this caution might be what Richard Regan Jr. needed, because as you observed, he was getting a little bit wiggly and his teammate was all over the back of him, so he might just need these couple of caution laps to cool himself down, cool the tires down, and try and get back in a rhythm once we restart again.
Well, yeah, he was running that high line that I'm sure we'll touch on multiple times this evening. But yeah, he was running the high line, and it seemed that he had a lot of speed, but that back end looked like it wanted to go around too. So it's going to be interesting to see how these guys hold on to that, because as we were talking about before coming on, the high line is definitely the preferred line tonight.
It's definitely interesting as you get later on into the run in this combination, in this track and car combination. The top line is dominant, but you can pull off a slide job in 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 if you have the momentum. But the driver in front usually knows that, so they usually go to block the bottom, and if the other driver gets to the top and manages to make their way around, it's a very, very interesting dynamic, and I assume we'll see something like that later on in this race.
Oh, for sure. But how many times are those tires going to put up with you making them slide like that before they get angry?
Not many. As we see the positions gained and lost here, looks like the biggest mover up is Pat Harvey, made up Abner Acosta. Abner Acosta made up 8 spots on that start. Great start for him. Patrick Cowgill lost 3 spots. Lucas Zivkov lost 4 spots, but mostly throughout the field, we didn't get too far into that run, so there wasn't much shuffling in terms of position.
No, just a little bit of time for everybody to kind of get an idea what they got underneath them tonight. As you stated before, open setups, so it's basically the sky's the limit what they can come up with. So first couple laps, guys kind of dialing it in a little bit, so not worth the worst thing, except for the few guys that got into the wall.
2 drivers whose positions haven't swapped, Regan Jr. and James O'Brien. Regan Jr. gets a way better start this time on the restart, possibly to try and help his teammate get to the bottom here. But his teammate James O'Brien, not a great start. Bradley Holly's still going to be on the bottom. Try and take away second from James O'Brien. Joshua Daniels going to try and follow him, but Richard Regan Jr. streaking away, multiple car lengths away on that restart. Bradley Holly has cleared James O'Brien and is on the top line in second place, but here comes Joshua Daniels on the bottom trying to take second away, and they're catching Richard Regan Jr.
Yeah, we saw the 77 with an incredible start. He just had an insane amount of speed coming out of that first turn, and he took advantage of it. He just snatched second place. I do believe he started that last restart in 4th spot, and he's just flying right now.
I think we were 3 wide there for a moment, and Joshua Daniels is our leader now. Not so much momentum coming up from the bottom line there, but he was able to clear Bradley Holly. Holly's trying to push him through the corners, it seems. And Daniels goes up high. Holly goes to the bottom. Regan Jr. is going to send it through the middle.
He's gonna be wide. These guys are racing like it's the last lap. It's lap 8.
And look at Matthew Long in 4th place. He started in 9th. He's already up to 4th place, and he's fighting with his championship rivals. Holly Jr. pushing Holly a little bit to the lead down there.
Long getting into the back of Holly with that push, exactly as you were saying, and a lot of racing going on 10 laps into this thing.
It's a racy combination here at Kansas, but when it's going to get interesting is after these first couple laps. You can see the drivers running the bottom, but they're going to be using their tires up more, aren't they? And the drivers on the top, they're going to have more tires a couple laps later.
Well, yeah, it's all going to come down to that right front. I mean, you're going to be leaning on it going into these turns at 180 miles an hour. But these guys don't seem to care about that right now, seeing them dip so low, getting close to the lawn, coming down to the start-finish.
Right now, Richard Regan Jr. just falling back a little bit. Maybe he doesn't have the short-run speed, or maybe he's just saving his tires as Long takes the lead from Holly. Long, Holly, Regan Jr., Daniels, your top four. Holly takes the bottom again. He's not quite going to be clear enough to pull off a slide into the lead here. And I think Long's going to lead this lap at the line.
Yeah, and they're 3 wide back there, and 3rd, 4th, and 5th in there. But I'm just watching Holly, and that high line, it's quick, but it's a scary ride, man. Woo-hoo.
It is, and you do not want to touch that wall. If you even get into it a little bit, you're going to lose so much momentum. And when the field's as close as it is here, that's going to be like 7 or 8 spots you lose if you touch the wall.
Oh, yeah, and the guys behind you don't want to see that either because they ain't lifting either. So it's going to be something. Guys trying to put this high line together, but right now the low one seems preferred.
Yeah, they're starting to stratify out one by one here, it seems. Just trying to go a little bit single file. Still a little bit of differential in the lines drivers are running, but up front, the top 7 or 8 trying to go single file, but Richard Regan doesn't want to go single file. He's going by Joshua Daniels on the bottom for 3rd. No, he can't. Not quite. I think I saw a little bit of the rear stepping out in the middle of the corner there, and he just lost all that momentum he had coming in.
Yeah, we see a pass up front. Matthew Long trying to get underneath Holly, and it looks like he's going to do it to take that lead.
We're going to stay focused on the lead battle up here, but we do have to report that Michael Lemieux is our first retirement of the race. He's out of it. Jose Medina and Terry Marinaro, they're still running after that early incident, but they are going a lap down. Medina not a lap down yet, but he will be a lap down very shortly. These leaders are going to have to watch out because Medina's driving around with no rear bumper, and if they're going 2 or 3 wide when they reach a lap car, that's not going to be a fun situation.
Yeah, Joey, all you can hope at that point is that the lap car is a predictable driver. That's really all you can ask for. I don't think there'll be any problems.
Matthew Long is incredible. You look at where he started. He qualified 9th, and he's gone up to 1st in 14 laps. Not even 14 laps, because when you factor in that caution, I think, what was that, 3 or 4 laps? He's only had 10 laps to make up this ground, and he's actually starting to pull away from Holly a little bit, it seems.
Yeah, and he just seems to be riding that high line, that back end, wanting to kick out a little bit, but he seems to be pretty smooth and handling it. He knows what's going to happen, so just kind of cruising that line right now, not really challenged. We see a little bit of a shake-up back there, about 4th and 5th spot, but up front, it's pretty easy sailing at the moment.
I think I saw Brandon Walter get into the wall a little bit. He's still rolling, but that slowed him down a little bit, down in 12th. May have lost a couple positions in the process. He lost 1 position to Adam Zemke.
Oh, the lap car got a little high. Whoa, lap car did cut. Oh, wow, okay. Sorry, I just saw him back there. He got a little high up there, almost caused an accident.
Yeah, Jose Medina, that car a little bit slower because it literally doesn't have a rear bumper. Getting in the way of the leaders just a little bit, but everyone still moving as the field swallows him up.
Yeah, just still up front, Matthew Long is opening this lead. He's got this open pretty long, actually, so he's pretty strong here. About 3.3 seconds, but just running strong. Hasn't really been challenged lately in the last few laps.
We've just received word from our director that the fastest lap of the race also belongs to Matthew Long. He is absolutely dominating the opening stint of this race, but around what lap do you think the tire wear is really going to start to play a role and the drivers are really going to be falling off, if it hasn't happened already?
Admittedly, I have not run a lot of Cup this week at Kansas, so I don't really have an accurate. I would say maybe 24, 28 laps. That's what I'm going to be shooting for, just past knowledge.
field is definitely strung out a little bit in terms of the front cars, but back here it definitely hasn't. We're 3 wide. James O'Brien has lost quite a few positions, but he's trying to race with Taylor Stout, Charles Sumner, and the gang in a big old
in the grass.
here.
Wow.
Almost. You got to be careful in the grass there. If you get too many wheels in the grass there, you will spin your way into the infield.
Yeah, I'm not sure what's going on with O'Brien right now. He definitely seems to be struggling. We see him 501 of Trent Dingle just kind of going around him, and you know, we got Waldo Walden right behind him, but something with O'Brien, maybe he's just getting dialed into the track. Maybe something with the setup he's not enjoying, but not his best outing so far.
And we haven't seen him get loose necessarily, because when you get loose around here, let's watch as he's going through turns 1 and 2 on exit is definitely when you have to worry about getting loose. And he seems fine, so it's not like he's getting in a pattern of heating up the tires and never letting them cool down, but something about this setup, like you said, it just must not be working for him right now, as he's lost 7 positions from the start.
Yeah, and again, maybe it's just a case of letting this first stint go by just to see what you have. I mean, he's not out of it by any means, but you know, it's interesting to see him falling back the way he has been.
It's Charles Sumner in the orange car, the number 98, trying to get by Patrick Cowgill for the 6th position. Cowgill getting a little bit wiggly on the high line, and that's going to allow Sumner on the apron here. Is he going to be clear? He is. Sumner gets 6th place.
Yeah, I was watching Cowgill going around there, and he was doing a saw job in that cockpit. Those hands were going back and forth.
And we've also lost the number 64 of Chad Brown out of the race. Terry Marinaro still in the race, but sitting in the pits in 31st. When he gets back out, he will get 30th place from Chad Brown. But up front, the gap's starting to expand as the tires wear long, half a second ahead of Holly. Holly 1.2 ahead of Daniels, and Daniels 0.6 ahead of Kalin.
Yeah, we saw that 77 working pretty hard to get up to that 3rd spot. He had a couple great runs on that first restart we had. So he finds himself up there. And as you said, yeah, it's a pretty large gap. 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way to top 5. Interesting, probably about a second and a half between 1st and 3rd, and you know, a little bit more than that at 5th.
As the tires have worn, you can see the drivers just trying to run that high line. It requires less turning, literally. When your tires are worn, you want to turn as little as possible and maintain as much speed as possible, which is why you see the majority of the drivers running the high line here. But it'll be interesting when fuel starts to run out, when tires start to run out, when these drivers come in. We might get green flag pit stops with the way these guys are strung out.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing that's really going to put someone in the wall is if they don't get enough traction going into turn 1 or turn 3. So it's really up to them. But yeah, I foresee a long green flag run coming out of here. I don't think it's beyond the realm of possibility to see green flag stops.
Well, as we say that, this little group that's been fighting for 10th for the entirety of the race so far, they're keeping us entertained. Adam Zemke trying to clear James O'Brien here in the 66 of Taylor Stout. Waldo Walden in the 64. These guys aren't going single file, are they?
Well, there's a lot back here. A lot of points at stake back here. A couple guys, you know, just outside, you know, point standings looking to get in. Seeing a couple opportunities to make up a couple spots. And somebody back there got a little loose, went down hard into the straight. I don't know who that was.
Big moment for the 66 of Taylor Stout, but the car has been saved, and no harm, no foul. Just a little bit of track position lost, but off the corner, you see the 5 of Abner Acosta almost get into the wall. And the 60 of Colton Lane trying to work on Brandon Walter right now.
Yeah, here at lap 27, again, I haven't run here, but I would think that these tires are definitely going to start playing some games with these guys.
You see Colton Lane getting loose off the corner there. Switching lanes, do I dare say, right ahead of, who is that? We can't quite see. That's the 47, that's Baron Hilton. And Pat Harvey. We saw Pat Harvey a little bit earlier in the race, and now Pat Harvey's trying to make up a little bit of ground, maybe saving those tires on that 67 machine a little bit more than Lane and Hilton up ahead. Are we going to go 3 wide in these old tires? Not quite. Harvey couldn't quite find a gap in the middle there. Oh, but Lane almost loses it again. That number 60 car is struggling without a doubt.
Yeah, my partner with the low-hanging fruit there, but we'll give you one tonight. So, but yeah, an excellent battle back here, and I'm not sure, but it does look like Colton Lane seems to be struggling either with the setup, or again, those tires are going away.
Pole sitter Richard Regan Jr. 4 seconds off the lead right now. That's definitely a surprise. We're used to seeing him always racing up front, but I wonder if this is just part of the strategy, saving those tires. Maybe they'll give him an advantage, because he is catching Mark Kalin and Joshua Daniels now, so I think this may have been a calculated move just to fall back a little bit and then use those saved tires to start working your way forward as he's stalking Mark Kalin. Kalin very sideways through the corner, and Regan Jr. mopped him up.
Yeah, and he's paying the price for that little bobble. You see him there. Oh, wow. A lot going on. A eventful lap for Kalin, and now he's getting real sideways again. Wow, I think this is where the action is right now. I want to stay here with the 62.
Yeah, that's what I mentioned earlier. When I ran a race here earlier this week, I got myself into a pattern. I heated up the tires one time. I got them overheated, I was losing the rear, and then I never got the chance to cool them down again. So I was just losing the rear lap after lap after lap after lap. And at this track, when you're basically turning for the majority of the time, it's really hard to cool your tires down. So Mark Kalin just needs to hunker down, cool those tires down a little bit if he can, and try and make his way back up, because now he's lost position to Charles Sumner.
Now we see Sumner going around him. Yeah, something's up. Again, I'm not not skilled enough to be making my own open setups in some of these Cup cars, so I am curious to what these guys are going for, because it looks like it's not working out for some of them.
Setup work is a black magic. These guys have guys that are specifically dedicated to doing their setup work. They're working on these pretty much for the whole week. Some of them have real-life pros helping them out, and it works better for some more than others. Matthew Long, definitely the best of them all right now, almost a second ahead of Bradley Holly, but these two have absolutely checked out. 4 seconds, or almost 4 seconds, over third place Joshua Daniels.
Yeah, Matthew Long is definitely a have at this point. He is just dialed in. Doesn't look like he's struggling much. Looking into the window, I don't see a lot of unnecessary input into that car. He's just kind of cruising along right now. Like you said, closest competitor is second, but then after that, it's almost a 4-second gap to third spot.
Here we ride on board with Matthew Long. Like you said, very smooth hand movements and not a lot of hand movements. So that's definitely the way you got to drive this. It looks like he's taking a different line through 1 and 2 than he is in 3 and 4. He's going down to the bottom in 1 and 2, and he's exiting high in 3 and 4. And you can see a little pixel up there going through turn 1. That's the lapped car of Thomas A. Roberts, I believe, or will be lapped car when he catches him. But he's not letting that worry him, because last lap for Long was a 31.3. Last lap for Holly, 31.4.
Yeah, that's a good thing about Kansas. If you can find your groove, you can kind of just cruise around this place and not really get into much trouble. We saw a couple guys dancing with each other in the back, but this obviously clean air. It's really just a chill Sunday drive.
Someone who it's not been a chill Sunday drive for is Mark Kalin, now battling with Waldo Walden for P8. I think he tagged the outside wall a little bit going into 1, kind of forced him down to the bottom. But exiting the corner hat, it looks like he's cooled the tires down a little bit. He's not losing it. But we'll see through 3 and 4 as he tries to chase Walden back down. If he's able to. He's got the momentum on the high line with Walden exiting on the low line. The car looks to be going straight, but unfortunately, just not quite fast enough at this point in the run for Mark Kalin. And another big mover, 2 spots behind Mark Kalin in that 5 car, Abner Acosta. He started 26th and he's up to 11th. And I'd argue he'll be in the top 10 in about 5 seconds.
I'm willing to say that's a good bet.
Kalin loses another spot to Patrick Cowgill. Fortunately, it seems like he's just hemorrhaging spots right now. He's desperately waiting for that pit window to open in a few laps' time. Right now, he's got Abner Costa all over the back of him. Exiting turn 2, a little bit of a wiggle. Will he block Acosta down to the bottom? No. He's happy to let Acosta by at this moment in time. Not going to fight things too hard. And Mark Kalin looks like he'll fall back to 11th place right here.
Oh, he is all over the place. Wow, the 62. He's been entertaining by himself. I really feel bad for him. It looks like he's got himself a handful right now. But it's been fun for me to watch.
Oof, there he goes again. It's just, he has control of the car, but just you get the rear out just a little bit on exit and it completely compromises your momentum down the straights when you need momentum to get a run here, especially in this car.
Yeah, that's when you're coming out of that turn and you're listening to the engine tell you how much grip you have.
Looks like we're in the close battle for 6th place. Trent Dinkel in the 501, trying to hold off Adam Zemke. We've seen both of these guys make their way through the field, but Adam Zemke a little bit more so, making quite a bit of passes, keeping us entertained, trying to get by Trent Dinkel in, I believe, that is a Wendy's car, it looks like.
It looks like the closest battle we have going on the track right now is with Kalin and Stroud at the moment. See them bouncing back and forth, but again, everything with the 62 right now is an adventure. I might be kind of partial to wanting to watch him.
That was not a Wendy's logo on Trent Dinkel's car. Maybe I'm just hungry. That was Wedge and Hammer, which is the team that Dinkel races for. I need to get myself some dinner if I'm seeing Wendy's on every red car in the field. But I tell you who's seeing red, Adam Zemke in the 57, trying to get by that 501. But the 501 running pretty well. The momentum for the 57 just isn't quite there. He's going to try and send it to the bottom. Can he pull off one of the slide jobs that we mentioned in the pre-race? Not quite. We're late enough in the run. The bottom just won't work if you're only side by side. And Dinkel stays ahead with that momentum on the high line.
Yeah, man, sticking his nose in there. We got the 84 of Walden. He's loving this battle going on between the 501 and the 57.
You see two cars side by side there. That's Richard Regan Jr. turning these tires on, trying to get by Joshua Daniels for 3rd. He's using the bottom, and I think he has just saved those tires a little bit more because he is clear of Daniels. Richard Regan Jr. up into 3rd place.
Yeah, and he's the 3rd spot. He's the first car in that lead pack at 3rd spot. They're 5.2 seconds behind, though.
We'll see how Regan can run now that he's in clean air. Can he bring down that 5-second gap to Long and Holly? He doesn't have anyone to race anymore. He's just got to run some laps here. And I assume he has been saving quite a bit of tires. We'll see if that can help him out here. As he crosses the line, last lap for the 2 leaders was a 31.44. Last lap for Regan Jr. a 31.51. But this next lap will be the real test. His first lap completely in clean air. He hasn't had to adjust his line at all trying to pass Daniels. This is his race coming to him here.
Yeah, I'm not expecting to see much because I feel like he would be, I mean, he has opened a little bit of a gap, but Matthew Long is on it. So interesting to see what these times are at the line.
Tell you what, coming across the line, Matthew Long 31.5, Bradley Holly 31.4, Richard Regan Jr. 31.48. So the 2 drivers in 2nd and 3rd clawing a little bit back from the leader, but they're going to need a lot of bit back from the leader if they're going to catch him.
Right, and we'll see if that's an anomaly or if that starts to become a trend, because obviously you're not going to gain it all back on one lap. It's lap after lap, but we'll see what these times look like this time.
Regan Jr. not quick on that lap, 2/10 off both of our top two. He's just going to hope for a good pit stop or maybe a caution. That's probably what he needs, because his short run pace wasn't bad, but he did fall back quite a few positions, and as the field stratified out, he just wasn't able to make up that ground. We see Bradley Holly here bringing the gap down a little bit to Matthew Long, about a couple hundredths or a couple thousandths of a second faster that lap, but you can see the gap is closing. It's been about 0.8, 0.7. If for but a moment it was about 0.6 there. So Holly isn't necessarily feeling too great about taking the lead now, but he is definitely making up a little bit of ground.
We're starting to see some communication, some guys starting to come in. Some guys toward the back of the field that you would expect, but it's a good indication that we're going to start to see a lot of activity on pit road very shortly.
Adam Zemke in the 57 looks like the highest car coming in from 8th place on lap 49 here, coming down pit road. Could it be a little bit early? And back there, that's is that Colton Lane in the black car? I don't believe it is. I think that's Ed Fowler, who's also coming in. Doug Evans said he's coming in, but he is 17 laps down after that damage. But we'll watch Adam Zemke here. That'll be the race to watch. But actually, no, the race to watch, Bradley Holly is chasing Matthew Long down. We said he was closing in little by little. That last lap was not little by little. Matthew Long a 31.8, Bradley Holly a 31.6.
And Joey, sometimes that's all you got to do. You just got to get a little bigger in his rearview mirror and make him make a mistake. And looks like Holly is really closing the gap here. So Long's had a lot of easy racing. Let's see what he does with a little bit of heat on him.
I assume Long will want to get into the pits as soon as possible because he does not want Bradley Holly getting that track position. But the gap falling with every lap. It's now below 0.3 of a second. Holly running the high line, Long on the bottom line, but he did not get a good run on the bottom there. Holly is bringing this gap down. You can see that's two cars up ahead racing for position. So they're going to have to fit through the middle here if those two go side by side again. But Holly just in the draft here. Maybe he's happy to just run behind for now. And then when they come into the pits, maybe force them into a mistake on pit entry or pit exit and steal that position.
Or perhaps, yeah, exactly, try to pass him in the pits. You never know. A second in the pits could be all you need to get that spot. Pass him in the pits and don't look back, as we see a lot of guys coming in now. William Farmer in the 95. Robert Besaw Jr. also. A couple of guys more coming in this lap.
Yep, and we saw Cowgill, Lane, Witt, whole gaggle of drivers coming in, but nobody in the top 7 has come in. Adam Zemke was the first driver to come in from 8th place. So we'll see if he can make up some track position on an undercut strategy here. But Matthew Long seems like he's just trying to make this a long run. He doesn't want to come in early. Here comes Mark Kalin. We saw him having loads of trouble on those tires. He's finally getting off those old heated up hunks of rubber, put on some fresh stuff. But Holly, 1/10 is the gap now. Is he going to send it down to the bottom into turn 1? No, he won't. Long takes the top. Holly also takes the top.
Look at these clean tires. I'm sorry, Joey. Look at the clean tires coming through.
Exactly. That's Colton Lane on new tires, getting past the leaders, getting his lap back. And is that going to... I think that did mess up Long's head just a little bit. They're probably both thinking, we need to get in the pits and get some tires now, because even Adam Zemke could be making up a good amount of time here. He was in 8th, some 8 seconds back, but the longer these drivers stay out on these old tires, the more time they're going to lose to those who pitted.
Yeah, and we could talk about it until we're blue in the face, but that's really all you need to see right there is just how much of a difference there is on old and new tires.
Holly's on the outside this time. I think Long is coming in. Long's coming into the pits. He's going to try and beat Bradley Holly by going 1 lap shorter. I assume Holly will try and match that strategy and come in this lap. But we will see. Bradley Holly is the leader. Richard Regan Jr. did not come in either. So both Holly and Regan Jr. trying to go for a little bit of an overcut. I don't think they'll stay out for that much longer, but they are staying out for a couple extra laps compared to those who pitted. through turns 3 and 4. I'm trying to see, will Holly be coming in this time? Yes,
Yeah,
Billy. Bradley Holly.
getting it wound up and getting it into that stall. He's got to pass him. If he's going to pass him with a quick pit stop, this is where he's going to do it. And we've seen a lot of green flag runs, so a very important stop for Bradley Holly. This could be his race right here.
We saw Matthew Long leaving the pits as we called Holly coming in. Holly stops in his pit box, don't want to overcook it. It's a perfect stop for Holly, maybe a little bit tentative to not slide those tires. But right now, I am looking at Matthew Long going through 3 and 4 right now. Will he be able to beat
Holly off the jacks? He's going.
Yep, here comes Holly. Long about to go by the start-finish line. This is going to be very, very close on exit.
No, Holly's got to hold it. He's got those cold tires. Don't bring it around the flat too quick, man. Oh, this could be good.
Yep, you do not want to spin on the pit entry, and if he did, he would have spun right in front of Matthew Long, but no, Matthew Long did make up just a little bit of time, and that is those new tires. He had like half a lap on the new tires, but you can see the gap has expanded to something like 2 seconds with those new tires, even for that small amount of time. And looking at Adam Zemke, guess where Adam Zemke is? Adam Zemke is 0.6 of a second behind Bradley Holly, so that undercut strategy has worked out beautifully for Zemke. But the problem is, as the race moves on, he's going to have 6 lap older tires, or however many laps extra he had, compared to the ones who pitted 7 laps later.
Yeah, we see these guys start to cycle through. We're going to get a good picture as of right now. Everybody's scoring a lap down, but we shall see. But I don't think there's any question who's going to come up on top. It's just a matter of how far ahead he's going to be. Matthew Long on the 28, so far putting on a dominant race performance.
Current leader is Richard Regan Jr. I'm not sure if this strategy is going to work out for him as he comes into the pits. He spent quite a bit of time out front, maybe just to lead a couple laps, maybe to get some fresher tires at the end of the next run. But Regan comes in, we'll see. He was in 3rd place when pit stops started. I think he's going to lose a couple positions, but we'll see as he comes down into his pit stall. He was the leader. He's in the number 1 stall. Looking like everything's normal. He's going to come out of the pits here. I think I'm already seeing Matthew Long go by. I'm already seeing Bradley Holly go by, and I'm already seeing Adam Zemke go by. So this strategy not paying off at this point in the race for Richard Regan Jr., but that can all change as we get a little bit later into the race. He's down in 8th. James O'Brien, our new leader, the Richard Regan Jr. teammate, comes into the pits. We see the orange car back there leaving. Matthew Long will be our leader, and he's pulled. How big of a gap is that? 1.3 seconds over Holly. Not as big as I thought, but that is still a full second. You saw Holly was all over the back of him before they came in. That undercut has worked out for Matthew Long. Bradley Holly in 3rd. Adam Zemke and Charles Sumner battling for 3rd. But as we cross the line at the end of this lap for lap 63, we're going to throw it to a break here. And we'll be right back. Don't go anywhere. And watch more PRL NASCAR Cup Series action with us in a few minutes.
iRacing is a sim racing game that combines a true-to-life racing experience with an online community of virtual racers from all around the globe. iRacing offers a multitude of officially licensed cars and tracks, laser scanned with millimeter accuracy. Their car models and mechanical systems are based on real-world physics engineered in cooperation with manufacturers and race teams. Their skill license system ranges from rookie to pro, ensuring members are always pitted against those with similar skill sets. Members are able to sign up for a weekly race series, compete in time trials, host a private race with friends, and participate in racing leagues created and run by the community. With over 170,000 members, iRacing works in partnership with renowned motorsports organizations like NASCAR to deliver virtual races based on the real-life NASCAR Cup Series, as well as many other series on the NASCAR ladder. iRacing also features team racing, providing a variety of options for members to create and manage their own teams. Race with friends or real-world teammates in full-length endurance events like the 24 Hours of Daytona, Spa 24, or the Bathurst 12 Hour. Additional partners include IMSA, World of Outlaws, Supercars, and IndyCar, allowing members to race in their very own Indianapolis 500, Bathurst 1000, Chili Bowl, and many more iconic events. This is iRacing, delivering the most authentic racing experience short of getting into a real race car. Sign up today at iRacing.com.
Welcome back to the virtual Kansas Speedway, the PRL NASCAR Cup Series. We're currently running lap 68. Matthew Long has been the leader for the majority of the day after starting in 9th place. Bradley Holly 3rd to 2nd, and Charles Sumner and Adam Zemke, the big story. The undercut strategy putting them 3rd and 4th. But the question is, as this run goes on, those tires are going to fall off 8 laps earlier. And it'll be interesting to see as the drivers who pit later will come back later in the stint. Here's Richard Regan Jr. Talked a lot about him as well. Started on the pole, fell back quite a bit, but he's just trying to make his way back through the field. Maybe he's made a couple adjustments to his driving style or to his car. He runs in 5th place right now, trying to catch Adam Zemke.
Yeah, and it's pretty clinical right now by Matthew Long. Bradley Holly seems to get stronger as the run goes on. Interesting to see if that's going to happen on this set of tires as well. But then again, like you said, Sumner, really the only one that's within striking distance. It looks like the real race starts 4th on back.
As Zemke loses a position to Richard Regan Jr., it's interesting to see because Zemke and Sumner were right together leaving the pits. But Zemke's lost 5 seconds to Sumner, so I don't know if that's just saving tires or what.
I'm just looking through the field, and it doesn't look like a fun time getting around 3 and 4. 3 and 4 seem to have a lot of momentum coming out. A lot of these guys are darting in after catching themselves. It's interesting, especially if you got somebody underneath you.
And of course, we have to remember that because Richard Regan Jr. stayed out for longer than everybody else in that previous stint, he did lose a bit of ground, but he now has 5 or 6 lap fresher tires than those drivers in front. So he's gonna hunker down, try and chase down Charles Sumner, and then hope that Matthew Long and Bradley Holly get back into that battle they were having before the pit cycle and slow each other down.
Yeah, this is really something to see. We see Mark Kalin. He's the next one to go a lap down in the 62 car. Like I said, he's kind of been a rolling circus himself tonight. It's been fun watching him as he gets really close to the wall there, too. But he's about to go a lap down. He's going to be holding on. Should be interesting to see how hard he fights.
Yeah, Kalin started 5th, pitted on about the same lap as Long and Holly. Basically a 2-lap difference, but this has not been a great race for the Whataback Racing Black driver. We're always used to seeing Mark Kalin up front, and he qualified up front, but here comes Matthew Long, the 2nd place driver in the championship. We see a big gag lapped cars, or cars that will be lapped soon, up ahead. Matthew Long isn't worried about Mark Kalin. He's worried about Brandon Walter, Colton Lane, Lucas Zivkov. They're going 3 wide up there, or at least they were. Well,
yeah, always a few tight moments when you think about coming up on a gaggle lap cars. You never know, because these guys are running their own race. They don't care about you. They will eventually, but up until you're right behind them, they're running their own line.
Exactly, and they want to stay on the lead lap. If a caution comes out, only one car can get the lucky dog. But Mark Kalin getting by Jose Medina, and Matthew Long's trying to get by both of them. That is not what you like to happen when you're the leader, when you're lapping two cars who are two different stages of being a lap down.
Yeah, and Bradley Holly liking that a little bit, but I tell you what, going 3 wide to go around a couple lap cars, that's a driver that's really feeling it right now. He's very confident, and nothing's going to get in this guy's way, apparently. Matthew Long with some risky maneuvers around some lap cars.
Well, if you're Bradley Holly, you're happy for like a millisecond, and then when Long gets by the lap cars, you're just like, what was I so excited about? I have to pass these guys too now.
Right, he did get that gap down to 0.8, and I'm looking ahead. Colton Lane did have a little bit of brush with the wall, so he's seeing his mirror get bigger too with some of the leaders, so he's wondering when his turn is too. But yeah, he had a little bit of a scrape going on.
Looks like these cars fighting for about 15th through 20th. They've solved their battles. They're not going 3 wide anymore. We see a little bit of 2 wide action further ahead with Zivkov, but nothing that'll worry Long and Holly too much. But now, yeah, there you see the 21 and the 10. That's Zivkov, and that is John Hopley, who is already a lap down. So again, it's 2 different stages of lapped cars. If you're only 1 lap down, or if you're not even a lap down yet, you're going to race the leader a little bit differently than someone who's like 17 laps down.
All right, and here we see the leader coming up on Colton Lane. To see, interesting to see how much fight he puts up. He's been struggling the last couple of laps. I've been watching him.
And now Holly's stuck behind Kalin. Kalin goes to the bottom here. Holly just basically pretending he doesn't exist, just trying to run his own race, save his tires, not send it to the bottom like Long did. And it seems like the strategy's paying off for him. Maybe Mark Kalin leaves him a little bit of room as he sweeps around the outside here. And he should have dispatched of Mark Kalin pretty easily. Yep, there it goes. Now he's got Long in front of him.
I'll tell you what, Matthew Long has no love lost for Colton Lane right now. Colton Lane is not giving up that spot easy.
And it's extremely frustrating when you're the leader to get held up by 2 cars racing like that, but you got to remember, if you're those 2 cars racing, even if it's for 19th, every point matters. But Long tries to send it 3 wide again between Walter and Lane. There was not a lane there, but he follows Colton on the high line. Maybe he'll be able to sweep around Walter this time and make up 1 of the lap positions he needs to make up. But you can see again the gap to Holly falling down. It's below a second again. Long dispatches of Walter, and now he's going to have to go to the bottom to get by Lane. Will it work? Yes, it will. No, it won't. He's not able to get a run on the bottom there, and he's not going to be able to get to the top because Colton Lane's still running the top, trying to keep his lap.
Oh, wow. I could just imagine how frustrated Matthew Long is right now. He's going to get him, but it's not easy. He's having to work for this one. Oh, and a little bit up in the wall. Oh, he's got contact.
He almost wrecked the leader. He spins, and that's going to be our caution.
Oh, wow. How lucky was he? How close was that? Oh, Matthew Long. I wonder if he even knows how lucky he is. Oh,
if I was Colton Lane, I would have been more terrified than Matthew Long. I don't want to wreck the leader, even if I am going to wreck myself. Let's take a look at the replay here of Colton Lane. Talk us through what happened here.
Oh, yeah, we see Colton Lane lose it. Oh, and he just barely gets it, dancing around, locking up those brakes, trying to keep it off everybody. Does a good job here, but whew, tell you what, if Matthew Long was looking at all in his rearview mirror, I think maybe a little bit of a brown moment, just a little bit.
Something interesting's happening as we watch the rest of the replay here. God, that does not get old, does it? He's lucky no one hit him as he was spinning through the middle of the track. Lucky he was in a part of the pack where the cars were separated. But Matthew Long has come to pit road, but Bradley Holly was parked there for a minute. I think they were waiting for the pace car to come by. I don't quite know what was going on there.
Well, the caution came out quick, that's for sure, and I'm pretty sure that's manual cautions here. But it does look like Matthew Long is getting a wave around. I'm not sure. He's letting the field catch up from now. I'm not quite sure exactly what's going on, Joe. Maybe you can shed some light on this.
Doesn't look like he actually stopped. I think he just drove through the pits. So I think he'll rejoin in the lead, because I think I don't know. I'm going to try and take a look back, see if he was forced down there, if he thought he could come into a closed pits, because it looks like he's getting an EOL right now.
All right, well, I haven't seen anything come across the board as far as any kind of assessed penalty, but it's obvious he's letting everybody go by.
Yeah, this is a very, very interesting situation. I'm just trying to... I watched his pit entry. He came in very, very late, absolutely locked the tires up, barely made it inside the yellow cone. But it wasn't an unsafe pit entry. I think he just entered a closed pit.
Did he enter the or was it speeding?
I think he entered a closed pit. I can't quite tell. There's a conversation with race control and the drivers going on right now. But either way, he is getting an end-of-line penalty.
Oh, wow, the drama. There it is.
Or the other question is he getting waved around the pace car so he can get his position back? Or what? I don't know. This is going to be very interesting. I'll figure this out eventually. Bradley Holly did come into the pits. The pits were open when he came in, but he will not be the leader. He has fallen to 17th on track because he pitted. Charles Sumner, Richard Regan Jr., Adam Zemke are technically your top three right now.
And just to answer a question from the YouTube channel, someone's asking what an EOL is. It's actually an end-of-line penalty. It's usually assessed for something, either coming in to a closed pit, which we think happened here, or speeding. You got to go to the end of the longest line of the lead lap. So costly penalty if that's in fact what did happen.
I think it may have been a typo, but user Alpha147XX in the YouTube chat said, "What's an EOL? End of life?" I don't think it's an end-of-life penalty. That'd be a pretty harsh penalty. That's only for, like, if you wreck the leader when you're a lap down. That's an end-of-life penalty. But when you when you unsafely enter the pits, that's just an end-of-line.
Well, I tell you what, when you've been pacing the field like you had, like Matthew Long's been, and you do get a penalty, could feel like an end-of-life penalty, to be completely honest.
Well, I mean, if we see where he started the race, he started in 9th. He's going to restart 18th or 19th or 20th or something. But I wouldn't rule him out of this race. He has a fantastic race car, and he's proven that he's able to make his way up the field, especially in short-run pace, and pull his way up to the lead. So he may be a couple seconds down, maybe a couple dozen seconds down, but don't count him out for making a comeback here.
Right, and I'm not sure how much discussion would be being had right now, but it does look like the penalty will stand, and looks like he's going to be scored in 18th place coming around to take the green.
New leader, Charles Sumner, last pitted. No, he did pit under that caution. So this is very confusing. We're not coming to the green here, actually. The caution has been thrown again as they try and figure out what on earth is going on with the field. Bradley Holly, who was our leader once Long got the penalty. I don't believe he came to the pits, but he did pit after Long did, but he's in 16th place now. All right, we've got an explanation. We can see that Bradley Holly pitted on the second lap of the caution. Everybody else pit on the first lap. So he would have been the only one that didn't pit, and he didn't want to start up front. So he is starting from the back because he pitted afterwards. So it's going to be, he's going to regret he didn't pit on that first caution. He might have thought a couple more, or the first lap of the caution, he might have thought a couple more drivers would stay out with him, but didn't quite pay out for him.
Well, glad we can finally clear some of that up. Looks like the lights are out on the pace car. Top 5, we got Sumner, Regan Jr., Zemke, Daniels, and Cowgill. It's a little bit of shakeup up front. It's going to be an interesting, what do we got here? Interesting about, 60 laps to see if we could see some resurgence from our former leader. There we go. Take us to green, Joe.
Charles Sumner in the Tropicana car. We don't always see him leading restarts, but he does this time, and he does it well. Pulls a good car length over Richard Regan Jr., who takes the bottom. Adam Zemke will be in third, and Joshua Daniels up on the high line trying to take third from Zemke. It's not going to happen. Regan Jr. all over the back of Sumner on exit. Sumner goes a little bit high, and that lets Richard Regan Jr. take the bottom away. And that move was almost as easy as they come for Richard Regan Jr.
Yeah, similar to the early part of the race, Regan Jr. getting by, and we see Joshua Daniels in the 77 with a good run on the inside. Looks like the 57, Adam Zemke, going to try to take advantage here, going on the inside. Charles Sumner, the guy left outside right now, looks like he's going to not opt to go back to the inside line, so he's going to fall back to fourth here.
Now it's going to be interesting on this run. First of all, will drivers be able to make it to the end? We don't believe they will. They're going to be about 10 laps short here. And the second thing is Richard Regan Jr.'s long run pace, because remember, he was falling back quite a bit on that first long run we had. He may be in the lead now, but Joshua Daniels had quite a bit of long run pace. Bradley Holly down in 14th. And again, Matthew Long, you see him on your screens now. Fastest lap, 29.6. Richard Regan Jr.'s last lap, 29.8.
Yeah, something to point out, these guys, even though they were 10 seconds off the pace of the leader for most of the race, they've all been bunched up this entire race. So I think the complexion of this has changed a little bit. I think we're going to see a lot of tight racing going into these last 55 laps.
It's always interesting when the leaders run into trouble and you got to force them to make their way up front again. But Matthew Long is on fire, not literally, but last lap again, 29.5. That is rapid stuff. But you got to wonder, as he's making his way up, as he's passing everybody, Pat Harvey does not want to let him get by. That was a little bit naughty, I think. Matthew Long's not going to be happy about that one. But he's without a doubt the fastest car in this race. And he's just got to be patient, make his way up the field, and don't cause problems for yourself getting too aggressive back here.
Yeah, I think Harvey with that paint scheme, little loud, proud, and ahead of him. So, but he's not letting it. Do I see smoke?
Oh, Bradley Holly. Bradley Holly spins to the apron. That's not going to be a caution because he is on the apron. Yes, yeah, it is.
Yellow's out.
Caution.
Yellow's out.
Bradley Holly. I think he lost it on his own. We'll see a replay if he got any help. That is another setback for the driver who looked like he had the best car to win this race if we had another long run. But he just lost it from about 14th after that pit setback. Let's see the replay here. Rocco, talk us through what happened.
Looked like the two came down on him. It looks like the two got a little scared of the wall and came down a little quickly. It looks like he had some help. I don't think it was intentional. I think it was just a racing accident, but he did have some help.
Yeah, nothing Holly could do there, but luckily not too much damage, and he was able to keep it out of the wall. That was a great way to slow down the car. I think he deliberately spun it out to not go straight into that inside wall. And he's lucky there's a lot of concrete on that apron down there, and he's able to keep it running with minimal damage, but just a little bit of track position lost.
Yeah, we've been seeing guys do that all night. You see him come a little high off of turn two, and they got that quick little twitch inward, and unfortunately somebody just happened to be on the inside that time and was just a victim of it. But like you said, no real damage. He's going to continue on, maybe a little bit of bending a metal in the pits, but he should be good to go. But yeah, honestly, a lot of the mighty have fallen so far.
Holly, Lane, and Guerra have come down pit road. Mark Kalin gets the lucky dog. You see him going around the pace car there. He's getting his lap back. But Lane, Guerra, and Holly were the last three cars on the lead lap. So they didn't have anything to lose by coming in. We only ran 8 or 9 laps on that stint. But when you're at the back of the pack and you got nothing to lose, you might as well get 10-lap fresher tires. And Bradley Holly, after sliding him for a couple thousand feet, he's definitely going to want fresh tires.
Well, I am not the math whiz here, but these guys might be trying to get to the end with these pit stops where they're happening, because if you think about it, they're right on that window.
Richard Regan Jr. on that first stint. I'm just trying to remember how long he went. I believe when we threw it to break after Richard Regan Jr. pitted, that was lap 60, lap 59 or 60 it was. So right now we're on lap 93. We have 52 laps to go. We ran 10 laps before this. I think they might be able to make it to the end with a bit of fuel saving, but we might need another caution.
That's how something like this becomes interesting with the snap of a finger. We saw our two leaders fall back into the pack. One brought out a caution, another one struggling to get up front. Now we got guys that were running mid-pack just 10 minutes ago. Now they're fighting for the lead. This is what makes everything interesting.
We're hearing that the run was 55 laps because of that early caution. It was a 55 lap run at the start. So right now we've got 50 laps to go, but this stint will be a total of 61 laps. So the drivers who pitted, Holly, Guerra, and Lane, they are actually possibly going to be the best ones off here because they only have to do 51 laps and they've only run 1 lap on this tank of fuel. So I think they're good to the end and they might not even have to save any fuel.
And throw Mark Kalin into that list. He's taken 4 tires, looks like, and obviously a full tank of gas. So he should be good to the checkers as well.
And Mark Kalin getting that lucky dog after having a not very fortunate run of events to start his race for the first 94 laps. But he's back on the lead lap. He's got fresh tires. He's got a full tank of fuel. It'll be interesting to see. It doesn't look like anybody else is going to come down pit road here. Either they think there's going to be another caution, or they think they're actually good to the end.
Well, I'm definitely rooting for the 62. He's been fun. He's been the most fun to watch this whole night. So I'd love for him to be on that podium so we could talk to him after the race.
And you know, it's always fun to root for the underdog in a fuel strategy race like this. Sometimes people complain about fuel strategy races. They say it's not racing to just hit the gas pedal less or whatever. But it's always interesting. It's a bit of strategy. And it's always fun to root for the underdog. Remember 2016, the Indy 500, Alexander Rossi? That kind of story, it's always fun to see.
Right, depending on which end of that you're on, because I'm sure a few people lost their jobs after that little thing.
Yeah, I don't think Carlos Munoz was very happy with that, but, you know, I was for my couch at home. But as we come to the green flag here, Charles Sumner down to 4th place. He led us to the green last time. Richard Regan Jr. leads us to the green this time with Joshua Daniels on his outside. Adam Zemke is going to be following him on the bottom, and Patrick Cowgill on that 3rd row as well. But as the pace car peels off, the green flag comes out, and it's a great start from the greenish yellow car. Richard Regan Jr. pulls a gap out front. Joshua Daniels gets to the bottom. Adam Zemke on the bottom as well. But such a big gap for Regan. I'm not sure if he wants that big of a gap because Daniels is going to get a run here.
Yeah, it is only a 1.5 mile speedway, but draft does play a key factor in these races, and you can see Joshua Daniels getting sucked up to the back of Regan within the laps. So definitely something you don't want to get too far out. I guess unless you're long, then you want to be as far out as you want.
Can see Daniels all over the back of Regan. Does he have a little bit more short run speed here? See one car going to the top there. That was a white car. That's Taylor Stout. Robert Besaw Jr.'s up there as well. Luka Zivkov with Joshua Daniels hunting down Richard Regan Jr. for the lead here. And Zemke seemingly just happy to run in 3rd for a little bit and hope these leaders start racing each other hard.
Got a couple rows, three wide back here between 9th all the way through like 13th. These guys definitely feeling racy, trying to get into a spot to make this last push on these last few laps.
3 wide further back in the pack. Robert Besaw Jr. the meat in the sandwich there. I think that's Trent Dinkle with a little bit of a squeeze. Tight quarters, and who's behind all of that? It's Matthew Long, our former leader, as he gets to the bottom, getting by Zivkov. And now will he be able to get by Dinkle? No, Dinkle cuts him off a little bit, but no, he squeezes it through the tiniest little gap to get the bottom there. And he's going to be clear of Dinkle, clear of Walden. And next up, James O'Brien. Matthew Long already back up to the top 10.
I am watching the car respond to this action here. Matthew Long's car, I think that thing is leaning on that right side. I don't know if you could see it from there, but that car came out of 3 and 4. That thing was leaning on its right wheels.
I don't think he's thinking about fuel right now. I'll just say that much.
Oh, Esau Jr. getting right behind Taylor Stout there in the 66, causing a little bit of a backup, and Long just in the middle of everything here. He is just not holding back at all. He wants to get back up front.
Yeah, it was a little bit of a wiggle from Stout there, just trying to check up from Esau's checkup, and Matthew Long went to the bottom there to avoid that. It looks like Long will move his way up to 8th place now, but he's got Abner Acosta on the bottom, kind of checking up the entirety of that bottom line there. Acosta goes high, right up ahead of Stout. That was close, but it looks like trying to back up to get on the top line, but James O'Brien closes the gap on the top, and Long isn't able to find a gap like that up there.
Yeah, he's finding himself in these little positions where it's just anything wrong can end his race, but he doesn't seem to care. He lost a little bit of momentum there, but it looks like he's starting to get it back.
It's kind of like trying to merge onto the highway for a second there. He's just stuck on the bottom. He doesn't want to be on the bottom, but he can't really do anything about it.
No, that high line is running pretty quick right now, and obviously we've seen the guy who's shown he could pace the field. He's struggling to get out into clean air. The car handles a lot differently apparently in traffic.
Almost like a Mercedes F1 car crossing the disciplines there. That car always set up to run fantastically up front and run away with the race, but the second you stick that thing in like 10th place, it struggles, and it struggles a lot. But Matthew Long doesn't seem to be having too much of a struggle. He's struggling to get by a couple cars, but he is up into 8th, and he started this in what, 18th?
Yeah, 18th spot was his position that he started in. It's funny you mentioned the Mercedes. You know, it's either if it's in 10th spot or if you're not the preferred driver. Those guys did not look too happy to win pole this weekend. That was an interesting sight to see.
Long finally has been able to get the top line that he wanted. He's trying to get by Acosta, but Acosta is using that bottom to his advantage. It doesn't look like these drivers are worrying about fuel to me, so I think they might be able to make it all the way to the end, all the way through the field. But it's going to be interesting, because we still have 40 more laps here. 40 plus 22 is 62, and the 62 of Mark Kalin, who's currently in 21st, and the gang of drivers who pitted before the green flag on this last restart, I still think they're in the best position here.
Yeah, if this thing goes green, these guys got an advantage because everybody else is going to have to stop. So it's just simple mathematics. It'll be interesting to see. We could see a surprise winner come out of here just based on fuel mileage alone. What are we looking at? 39 laps to go?
Yep, and it was a 55-lap run for Regan Jr. and James O'Brien on the first stint, which I don't know. Did they take it all the way is the question. Or did they have 5 or 6 or 7 more laps in the tank, and they just came in when they did for the sake of strategy? So it's going to be very interesting to see what the limits of these fuel tanks are, as Bradley Holly trying to make his way through the field. 10-lap fresher tires. He hasn't been able to make up as much ground as I thought he would. We saw how far Matthew Long was able to make his way up, but Holly right now just stuck in the back of a massive gaggle of cars here.
Yeah, Matthew Long seems to have picked his way through I guess the more aggressive part of the bunch. He's more single file now, but he's still got 2.3 seconds to make up. He's still got a little way to go.
Richard Regan Jr. pulling away a little bit up front. Earlier, it didn't seem like he had the long run pace, but compared to Daniels and Zemke, it certainly seems like he does. Daniels trying to fight his way back, but the gap expanded to about 0.6 of a second when Daniels was all over the back of Regan Jr. on the restart.
Right, and we are definitely going to start seeing some interesting strategies come into play now, because if you're going to pit Do you do it early so you can get the benefit of clean tires? Do you wait? Hopefully get the benefit of a caution. A lot of options right now for these guys. It's far from over.
Yeah, you don't want to pit too early and get trapped a lap or two down. As we're looking at Robert Besaw Jr. right now, the biggest mover of the race, 23 spots up. Started 28th, is in 5th now, chasing down Charles Sumner for 4th. This has been a great comeback for Robert Besaw Jr. and that SGE eSports team.
Yeah, and these guys just holding on. But, you know, watching Besaw Jr. coming in through these turns, and I'm watching Regan Jr., I don't want to say he's struggling, but it doesn't look like he's as comfortable up front as we saw with the 28 car earlier.
And in the back of your picture there, Matthew Long all over the back of Abner Acosta and Patrick Cowgill. I think he's happy to see Acosta get held up a little bit by Cowgill, and he's going to use Patrick as a little bit of a pick here, try and get on the bottom. Didn't quite work. Cowgill able to stay clear of Acosta, but Acosta switches to the bottom in that private label car, the number 5, but he's not quite going to be clear. Is he going to go up into Cowgill? No. They are able to stay off of each other, but I saw Acosta going up the track there, and Matthew Long looking for a way through the middle, not going to find it.
Yeah, and the 5 teammates of our current leader, the 46, doesn't look like that he's going to lose any sleep on making Long work on getting around him tonight.
Long's just boxed in here. He can't go to the bottom because Acosta's there, and he can't get by on the top because Cowgill's there. He just needs to focus on getting by him one by one. Looks like he's going to be clear of Acosta here, but Acosta runs the apron. He's not out of it yet.
He should clear him right along the backstretch here and kind of soldier on, but again, Acosta and Cowgill not doing him any favors.
Yep, Long is now clear of Acosta. P7 for Matthew Long as he works his way up through the field. Now he's running the top line on Cowgill, trying to get a run off the corner. Cowgill a little bit worse on tires, it seems, but Long not quite close enough to send it down the inside just yet, or is he? No, not quite. He's happy to follow Cowgill for the moment. He does get to the inside, but he's not quite going to be able to make that work just yet. Or, yes, he is. Proving me wrong. I didn't think he had the momentum down there. But through the middle of the corner, that car just has so much more tire life than the 31. And that thing just kept rolling. Next up on Long's list is Robert Besaw Jr.
Got a caution out. Caution.
Oh, the caution is out. That's Zivkov, and I think that's Baron Hilton. I tell you who's really, really happy about that, Richard Regan Jr., and basically the entirety of the top 15. It's not going to be a fuel mileage race anymore, but the question is, will Bradley Holly and Colton Lane and the gang come in? As we see a replay here.
Yeah, what we're going to see is the 21 got a little too much wall, smacked it up there, and unfortunately took out the 47 on his little attempt to correct it. Baron Hilton, an unfortunate passenger in that drive. 2-car wreck. So I think fuel strategy is out the window, Joey.
Yep. Such an unfortunate situation for Hilton. He did nothing wrong. He tried to go to the bottom, but that 21 car is coming straight for him. But we're gonna probably see cars coming down the pits this time. Regan Jr., Daniel, Sumner, Zemke, and basically everybody down to where is Bradley Holly at this moment in time? He is 15th. But the question is, will Holly pit with them? Because I think he might be good to the end, but he's going to be on 33 lap older tires if he doesn't come in. So I think it's a slam dunk to come in right now. But as the leaders come down pit road, we've seen a bit of demand from the chat for the replay of the Matthew Long incident. So we're going to see if we can take a look at him coming into the pits. That was a couple cautions ago. Richard Regan Jr. coming into his pit box here as we try and load the replay up. We're going to watch the race off pit road here once we get done with this replay. there's not much to see here, because you can see, yeah, back here. This is live. Richard Regan Jr. does win the race off pit road. Charles Sumner actually beats Joshua Daniels to second, and everybody did come in. Nobody stayed out. Nope, just kidding. Bradley Holly did stay out, as did Mark Kalin. So that's a very, very interesting development.
That's all I'm going to say to that.
I mean, I think this might have been the same situation we saw in the last caution when Bradley Holly thought everybody was going to stay out and didn't. So he might come in on the second time around here. But we're going to see Matthew Long here. Yeah, this is the replay of the infraction. Coming down the front straight, he knows the caution's come out. This is the back straight. So as we go through turn 3, the caution comes out, and he's deciding right now, do I come in? Do I not come in? He decides at the last second. You can see him completely lock it up.
Oh.
But he doesn't miss the pit entry. It's not an unsafe pit entry, because you see, he gets in.
Maybe he hit the cone a bit. Maybe he just kind of punched it a little bit.
Yeah, he got in on the inside of the cone, but the pits were closed. I think he expected them to open when he came in, but they didn't. So unfortunately, that was what put Matthew Long out of the lead here. But he's in 9th place, and with the way that car has been running, we've got, what, 30 or so laps to go, 35 laps. He's starting 9th. Remember the start of the race where Matthew Long started? 9th. Remember where he was about 10 laps in? 1st. So if I'm the 8 guys in front of Matthew Long, I am a little bit frightened right about now.
I tell you what, if I'm the 25 guys behind Bradley Holly and Mark Kalin, I'm a little frightened right now. These guys are on 30-lap-old tires. This is going to be something to see all of these guys with fresh rubber coming up with these 2 guys that obviously opted for track position. I would assume hoping for a caution, but if they're not careful, they might be it.
Yeah, those tires are 23 and 24 laps older than the tires of the rest of the field. So it's going to be very, very interesting as we grid up to see how that plays out.
So what we saw actually stretch out and look a little, I would say, slow during the middle portions of this race. I think we're in for a hell of a finish here. We got, 25 laps to go, shootout style at Kansas. I think there's about 10 guys in this field that I wouldn't feel bad betting against. So let's see what we got.
You know, I would like to see the fuel strategy play out, but you can't complain about packing up the field again and setting them loose. 25 laps is not the longest run in the world, but it's also not the shortest run in the world. So we will see some dynamics, assuming we don't get a caution here. But this is going to be possibly the most interesting restart of the race. Richard Regan Jr. and the entirety of the field on fresh tires versus Bradley Holly and Mark Kalin on 24-lap-old tires. But the pace car is going to peel off here. Bradley Holly's got to be careful not to spin the tires and spin in front of the field, especially when they're that old. But it's a solid start from both him and Kalin. It looks like he's trying to let Kalin's trying to get to the bottom going into turn 1. Holly's trying to set up a little bit more of an arc through the corner because those tires are worn, and he's not going to be able to get the same run as the drivers on newer tires. Richard Regan Jr. already getting by Kalin on the outside, and it looks like he's already going to get by Holly on the outside. I don't think this is paid off for those 2.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure what these guys were thinking they were going to get. I mean, this is going to get interesting. We saw Kalin bobbing and weaving a little bit, trying to keep in control of that car. These guys are going to have to work to get around him. This is going to get really tight. Wow.
Matthew Long almost got sandwiched in the middle of Acosta and Sumner. He's looking for every gap there is as Kalin gets loose in front of Acosta. That's going to stack up the entire field here. We're going 3 wide, multiple rows deep as Kalin gets high, almost spins Acosta there. This is scary stuff with these cars with so much older rubber, with these fresh tires, and these drivers that really need to make moves now if they want to make their way up to the front.
And Bradley Holly just falling back. It's like he's down a cylinder. No resistance for these guys. Oh, a little bit of contact. We got a contact in the wall. We got to pile up. Caution's out.
Waldo Walden and the 95. Those are the two cars you see on your screen. 95 William Farmer. Haven't talked much about him today. It was a solid race from Farmer. Doesn't look like that car's too damaged, but he does get a tow back to the pits, so clearly there's a lot more to it than what we saw there.
Yeah, just queuing this up, taking back a look at it. It does look like... Let's see, it looks like they did pass by Kalin. Kalin was on the inside, and Farmer was trying to hold it going in. Did he get a little help here? He may... Oh, he got squeezed by the 9 in front of Walden. Took Walden out, and kind of chain reaction, took out a few. Unfortunate racing incident there.
Yeah, there's a little bit of a checkup, I think, because the 95 saw Holly up there, but he came down to the 9 and then came up. Yep, and you can see there's the 99. I'm not sure if the 99 ended up in the wall on the inside, but I thought I saw a little bit of contact there. We can take a look at Brandon Walter coming through here. Take a look at the blue car at the back of your screen and the white Bud car as well. Oh, that was a big hit to the nose of the 94. That's Thomas A. Roberts. He was already 2 laps down, and that's just adding insult to injury.
Yeah, and the worn tires, I wouldn't say were directly the cause of that, but I don't think it helped. I don't think it helped having to get around a guy who was struggling as much as they were. It's unfortunate too. It was a good start, but I think that was bound to happen.
Yeah, and we saw on pit road Waldo Walden coming down, just trying to get that car fixed up. Walden coming in for some thorough repairs. He will maybe get back out in the lead lap. I'm not sure how bad that's going to be. Brandon Walter leaves the pits, so clearly that rear end damage, not too bad. But Regan Jr. still leading the way. Matthew Long up to 4th on this restart. Slowly but surely, he is making his way up the field. And I'd argue that he might just be the favorite with 20 laps to go.
He's shown us nothing to consider him not the favorite. He was capped the field. He went all the way to the tail end and came back. So I don't think that anybody has shown as much as Long has tonight. Whoever sets his cars up dialed in tonight for sure. Looks like it's been effortless from his part.
Long, of course, driving for James Bird Racing. I believe they're 3rd or 4th in the team's championship. We'll check the table here. I know the private label Team Hype is in the lead, but the team standings, James Bird Racing 3rd right now behind the Whataback Racing Black team. But yeah, you can see the graphic there. This could be a very good day for them. Matthew Long 2nd in the championship, but James Bird Racing 3rd in the championship. But as they try and fight back against those 2 teams ahead of them, they kind of need a win here. And I think Matthew Long is easily the favorite to do that for him.
Yeah, Joe, we got caught up here. How are we doing on time here?
Right now, we have run 1 hour and 23 minutes, so we've only got 7 minutes left. It's going to be a timed race, I think. With 20 laps, no, I don't think we're going to make it. I don't think we're going to make it the full race distance. I think it will go to time, but it's going to be close.
I think it's safe to say that this is probably the last caution that we can afford if we're going to make it in time.
Well, if we remember the scenes at Martinsville with the pace car pulling off with 1 second to go on the clock, you never know. You can always fit 2 or 3 more cautions. Now, do we want 2 or 3 more cautions? Absolutely not. And we must remember, actually, that the countdown, the time countdown, includes the grid and the pre-race sort of load up thing. So there is a couple extra minutes on the clock, but we can see the actual clock coming out now. There's 9 minutes left. I'm not sure we'll make it the full race distance, but we will make it probably past lap 135. We'll see. But as we come to yet another restart, possibly the final restart, probably the final restart, front two rows, Richard Regan Jr., Joshua Daniels, Robert Besaw Jr., and Matthew Long. Matthew Long, it's been a long and winding road back up to the top four here, and I think he wants this win more than anyone else up there. He showed his speed. Can he show it to these last three cars? Richard Regan Jr. leads us to one final restart or one penultimate restart. We'll have to wait and see. Robert Besaw Jr. on the bottom on Joshua Daniels. Matthew Long basically pushing Daniels through the corner, but he makes his way down to the bottom. And is he going to sneak through this gap between Besaw, trying to get a little bit of a side draft from Robert Besaw Jr. Clears the top of Joshua Daniels, and Matthew Long already trying to make his way up to second place.
Yeah, Matthew Long seemingly able to run wherever he wants with that car.
Through turns 1 and 2, I think this is where he's going to make the move to get by Besaw. He's squeezing Besaw all the way to the bottom in that 3 car. You can see Matthew Long get the better exit, get a little tiny bit of draft from Richard Regan Jr. But Joshua Daniels isn't out of it, and neither is Charles Sumner. They're right there with these two.
Tell you what, Regan with the strong. Saw him get out to the lead early last time, but he got sucked back in, and he's holding on now a few more laps this time. I don't know. I mean, it's far too early to say, but he's keeping him at bay so far.
Yeah, we have gone to time, but there's still 7 minutes left. That's still over 14 laps to go. There's a little bit of a squeeze from Daniels on Taylor Stout. Taylor Stout is Matthew Long's teammate, so this is going to be a fantastic day for James Bird Racing if Stout makes up a couple more positions. They're 3 and 4 right now, P3 and 4. It could be a double podium for this team.
Yeah, Besaw making it just a little difficult for Long to run that ideal line to get that inside bite coming out of 3 and 4. So I think that's where the downfall is. I think if he can clear, I think he's got enough for Regan.
But you can see Richard Regan Jr. already falling back. Both Besaw and Matthew Long are closing that gap down. That was not a good lap from Richard Regan Jr. Last lap for Richard Regan Jr. at 29.9. Last lap for the two behind him at 29.8. The top 3 separated by less than 2/10. This is a 3-way battle now. We haven't talked that much about Robert Besaw Jr. for this whole race, but he is absolutely in the fight for this win.
Yeah, and he has given no quarter. He is door to door with Matthew Long. He is saying, if you're going to pass me, you have to earn it.
He got a little bit of a wiggle on exit there. Luckily, he does have the inside. He's able to run the apron, so he's not completely cleared by Long. And he is going to have the inside still here. But I think on exit here, Matthew Long has the momentum. Just getting a little bit of draft from Regan. Regan moves down a little bit to let Besaw stay there. But now Matthew Long's running the absolute highest line he possibly can. He's sick of trying to clear Robert Besaw Jr., and he just needs to find any way to get the momentum to clear him.
And just looking back behind these guys, 5th and 6th, Sumner right behind Joshua Daniels, getting his bumper right up to his quarter panel. Almost some contact there.
But running that bottom line for Robert Besaw Jr., that's not going to help those tires at all, and Matthew Long is squeezing him down to the lowest possible line through 1 and 2, so those tires are going to be hurting. They probably are already hurting now, but in a few laps' time, that is not going to be a happy little car.
No, we see a little bit of a gap opening up between 1st and 2nd and 3rd, and I tell you what, Regan, if he can keep, are these guys going to touch? 2nd and 3rd, door to door.
So close, but luckily, Besaw Jr. and Matthew Long from Georgia, the Georgia region on iRacing, and Robert Besaw Jr. from New York. It's further than some people, but if one of them was in Australia, I think netcode would have played a role there. But luckily, these two on the East Coast, the internet playing nicely, so they can get as close as they did without contact. But they don't want to be doing that too many more times. But as Matthew Long runs the top here, Robert Besaw Jr. is clear of Matthew Long now. But Long's going to try and switch to the inside here, I think. He wasn't able to make the high line work. Can he make the bottom line work? He's going to try and slide it up. No. Bottom line doesn't work for Long.
Just doesn't have that on the bottom part. He just doesn't have enough to get around him. Besaw holding the top line strong.
Only 3 minutes and 45 seconds to go. We'll get maybe 6 or 7 laps, maybe even 8 if we're lucky. But Robert Besaw Jr., Richard Regan Jr., and Matthew Long, they were all separated by 2/10 at one point. They've now stratified out. There's a 3.5 tenths gap between all of them. Now 4/10. They're starting to spread out just a little bit. Was Besaw too aggressive? Was Long too aggressive? Will they be able to catch Regan with barely any time left in this race?
Yeah, we'll see if Besaw has enough to get up to the bumper of Regan Jr., but Regan Jr. just kind of checked out. Like you said, he had a couple slow laps, but just kind of turned it on, and if he doesn't forget to stop for about 2.5 minutes, he's going to win a race.
I tell you what, Besaw Jr.'s not letting him get away. The gap staying stagnant at about 4/10 of a second. They just need to start making something work here, because the gap between Besaw and Long and the gap between Regan and Besaw, it's identical. As we look further back, Charles Sumner leading a little bit of a train here for the rest of the top 10. Taylor Stout on the highline, so close to the wall. Lucky to experience a little bit of that new iRacing air cushion effect to not stick that number 66 in the wall. But Charles Sumner holding Stout in 6th. That was an unintentional pun, but I'm going to roll with it. And James Ryan, remember him on the front row. He's in 7th, trying to make up a couple more positions.
And these guys still racing toward the back, but obviously the main focus is the cars up front, and Richard Regan Jr. Putting a strong case in to come away with the checkers in this one.
I think Matthew Long used up his stuff. We're only going to have 4 laps to go here, and the gap between Long and Besaw is extending. It's over a second now. Unless he's saving tires for a 3-lap run at the end, I don't think he'll be able to make up the ground he needs here. Richard Regan Jr. over Robert Besaw Jr., expanding the gap with every lap. Regan was a 1/10 of a second faster than Besaw on the last lap, and again, he's another 1/10 of a second faster than Besaw.
Yeah, but a shout out to Robert Besaw starting this race from the 28th spot. Looks like he's going to be standing on the podium when it's all said and done.
But he can't get stagnant yet. He's got Matthew Long in his mirrors, and that gap for second at least is coming down a little bit. Long was just a tiny bit faster than Besaw on that last lap. As we come to the line, I believe it's going to be 2 to go or 3 to go, with only 40 seconds left. Richard Regan Jr. can't get complacent, but he can get a little bit comfortable. The gap to second place, 0.8 of a second. The gap to third, 1.3 seconds. And behind them, Joshua Daniels a little bit lonely in 4th place. Long trying to run the top. Besaw and Regan on the bottom. But as we cross the line here, 17 seconds to go. Will this be the white flag? Yes, this is the white flag for Richard Regan Jr. In the first stanza of the race, we saw him falling off. We said he might not have a shot here, especially wearing those tires out like he did with that overcut strategy. But I think Richard Regan Jr. has proved tonight that you can never count him out. If he's in 10th, 40 laps in, who cares? Richard Regan Jr. wins at Kansas.
Robert Besaw Jr. coming in 2nd, Matthew Long in 3rd spot, Joshua Daniels in 4th, and Charles Sumner finishing up, rounding out your top 5 tonight.
It wasn't a win for Matthew Long, but what a comeback after a very unfortunate series of events with a pit penalty and navigating lapped cars all over the place, navigating his way through the top 20. Great finish in 3rd place and a great win. A great comeback for Richard Regan Jr., a great comeback for Robert Besaw Jr. And we'll talk to all 3 of those guys when we come back. We're going to take a little break here. We'll see you in 2 minutes. Welcome back to the virtual Speedway as Richard Regan Jr. gets sent into space just a little bit. I did say virtual. So as Richard Regan Jr. dances around just a little bit, let's take a look at the finishing results from tonight's PRL NASCAR Cup Series race here at Kansas. Richard Regan Jr., another win, followed by Robert Besaw Jr., Matthew Long, a great comeback to third, and Joshua Daniels in fourth. Then Charles Sumner in fifth. Taylor Stout comes home sixth. James O'Brien after a front row start in seventh. Abner Acosta, Adam Zemke, and Trent Dinkle round out the top 10.
Yeah, Joey, in the 11th spot, we got Ed Fowler, followed by Patrick Cowgill, Pat Harvey in 13th spot, Michael Witt brought her home in 14th spot, Baron Hilton, 15th. We saw him get a little bit of damage there. Colton Lane in 16th spot, James J. Dewar going to be in 17th spot, Bradley Holly, interesting night for him, a lot of eventful things going on with that guy, 18th spot for him. We got Brandon Walter in 19th spot, Waldo Walton rounding out your top 20.
And then, as we see 21st through 30th, couple unfortunate drivers. Mark Kalin, he was up and down all day, ended in 21st. Joao Guerra, 22nd. Lucas Zivkov, John Hopley, Jose the Funky Cold Medina, down 9 laps. William Farmer, 22 laps down. Thomas A. Roberts, they were involved in an incident together. Doug Evans, Elliott White, Chad Brown, all out early. And the last 2 cars, Terry Marinaro and Michael Lemieux. All right, well, as we wait for the drivers to get into our interview box, Rocco, what do you think about that race tonight?
I think it was obvious that if you were out in clean air, you had it for everybody. I think once you got out of traffic and had nothing in front of you, you were clearly the car to beat. We saw some bumping. We saw a little bit of interesting interaction amongst metal, so to speak. But I enjoyed it. I think everybody watching with us on YouTube enjoyed it too. They were really active. So shout out to all you guys.
Yeah, we had a big contingent of fans in the chat. And again, if you've got questions, throw them in the chat and I'll ask them to our drivers. But first, we're going to talk to Richard Regan Jr. I said calling your win that you can never count you out. Did you think you'd be in victory lane today after that first stint of the race?
Definitely not. I was actually out of the state for work all week, and then Friday, Saturday, and today I was getting the race car ready for the race today, the real race car. So I didn't really get any practice this week. So all I had to learn for that first run was what James, Brandon, and Abner told me, and the adjustments they made to suit their driving style did not work for me. I could not work the top at all. So after that first run, I started working on the car to make the bottom work, and man, that car was like night and day difference between the start of the race and how we finished.
Without revealing too many of your secrets, do you want to tell our viewers what kind of adjustments you can make in the race car to make it run a little bit better around here?
Yeah, you can, grill tape will change the amount of downforce on the front of the car without blowing it up. You want to have as much tape as you can to have that front bite. You do tire pressures, helps with multiple different parts of the track. You can do chassis adjustments, and it helps with like weight balancing of the car. And yeah, there's a lot of things you can do, and it keeps you on your toes, keeps everyone on their toes, because even if Matt Long, I'm sure he was making adjustments every time he went down pit road, and it's unfortunate what happened to them and him and Brad. It's just it's unfortunate because they had fast cars, but I think if we would have got a caution either way, my car was way better and I would have had a shot to contend against them. I don't know if I would have been able to pass them, but yeah, it's good to see that Matt was able to work his way back up.
Lately, I've had a bit of a tradition for asking our viewers for some questions in these interviews, and Tim Kickham in the YouTube chat would like to know the drink of choice for all of our top 3 finishers. What's yours?
Oh man, I'm having some Proper 12. That's my drink of choice right now.
All right, and you got anyone else you want to thank before we get you out of here?
Yeah, I gotta shout out to 1 second. I gotta give a shout out to Brandon Walter, James O'Brien, Sheldon Adkins, Abner Acosta, Kevin. Oh man, I can't say his last name. But yeah, they put a lot of work into the car this week. Josh Conker, he also put a lot of work in the car. I got to shout out Ty Stover and Tommy Milner for starting this team. I got to give a shout out to Private Label for coming on board this year, and Ethica, Susan G. Coleman, Multiple Sclerosis Society, Oculus Glasses, Neons and Paints, Reaper Speed Lab, and everyone that tunes in.
Yep, congrats on your victory again, Richard Regan Jr. Your
Thanks,
winner
guys.
at Kansas. Next up, I believe Rocco will be catching up with our second place finisher, 28th second, Robert Bissaw Jr.
Yeah, Robert, 28th to second, pretty impressive. We heard our leader talk about the adjustments he was making throughout the race. Was that the case with you? What kind of adjustments were you making each time down the pit lane?
So I really wasn't making any adjustments. I knew I had to start in the back, so I've been practicing that all week and just taking my time. I was really hoping to actually be a fuel mileage race. So, I was clutching the car a lot, just taking it real easy. And, in the end, I really wasn't making any adjustments. Just kind of got forced into that position. Just the way guys were racing and putting me in really bad spots. So kind of got sick of getting put in the bad spots and just put the throttle down and kind of figured out that's actually how I should have been driving in the first place.
Yeah, you seem to be tasked with the, trying to hold off Matthew Long in those last 20, 30 laps. Obviously, he had the unfortunate, mistake of getting to the back, and he was trying to get up, but you were holding up pretty good. Did you have enough to compete with him? Was it just driving? How were you able to pull that off?
It was just a line. When we came out of the restart there, I jumped on the bottom. I know he wanted the bottom, but I was already down there, so I just tried to give him the outside, give him that lane, and just keep him off that. Eventually, we had a really good race there side by side. I don't know how many laps it was, but even running side by side, we were catching Regan, Richard. But man, after that run, as soon as I did actually clear him, my tires were gone.
Yeah, we were wondering how much you guys were struggling with the tires and not really showing it. But no, it was a good run. Yeah, that side-by-side stuff was really, really fun to watch. So question before you go. One thing, or a couple questions. First thing, what is your drink of choice, Robert? That's the question tonight.
Are we talking alcoholic or non-alcoholic?
It was not specified, so I'll let you take the liberty on which one you want to enlighten us with.
Okay, well, I had a Arnold Palmer before the race, the half and half, and it is an alcoholic beverage. It's pretty good. That's my go-to.
Good stuff. Anybody you want to thank before we let you go?
Just my family, PRL, you guys for putting this on, and just all the racers that we have. We have a lot of guys each season coming out, new guys, and like Matt Long and all those guys, good competitors, and appreciate them for coming out and sticking around.
Well, it's fun watching you run tonight, Robert. Have a good night.
Thanks, guys.
And that was Robert Bissaw Jr. One more driver on the podium, possibly the star of the race. If we had driver of the day today, I think it would go to Matthew Long. That was an exciting race, but I think the thing on all of our minds is what exactly happened with the pit infraction there.
Yeah, I don't know. We were out so far, and when that caution came out, I think we were just so far ahead of the pace car. I guess a few of us thought we had to go around, and we ended up getting penalties for being in front of passing the pace car. So I appreciate the admins and race control for working with us there and at least clearing those flags. But yeah, that definitely set us back, man. We had a rocket ship today, and out front leading. I was hoping that thing would go green. We were green flag pit stops going well, and it was fun working back through the field and everything, though.
And in that first stint, before that caution came out, we saw you go from, I think you started 9th and you were in first by about lap 15. How did it feel to drive such a good car, and how did your team put together such a great setup, it seems?
Yeah, well, I really got to thank my teammate, Taylor Stout. We put a lot of work in this week, a lot of practice laps. He helped a ton with the setup, and we were bad fast. So, yeah, you got to take advantage of the restarts here. Once you things get strung out and you get behind cars, it takes a while to pass, for anyone with the aero. But, putting in all that work this week really helped. And, those restarts were huge.
And when Colton Lane got in the wall about a middle of the way through the race behind you, did you notice that? Did you know how close that was?
I saw it in my rearview mirror, man. I was, he was racing me hard, which he has the right to do, to stay on the lead lap there, and I guess he got a little tight in the wall, and I saw him spin right behind me, and man, I knew it was close, so I didn't want to see that caution either, but glad I made it through that.
That was almost as scary for us in the booth as I think it might have been for you. But we got one more question for you. Tim Kickham in the chat has provided our viewer question for the week. He would like to know your drink of choice.
After the race, I will do a vodka soda with a little lime. That's my drink of choice.
Hope that's that for you, Tim. We got the top three. We got a vodka soda. We got an Arnold Palmer, and I don't even remember what Richard Regan Jr. said.
Nice. Well, hey, I just want to thank my teammate Taylor Stout. All the friends and family watching. Pebble Isle Marina up there in Kentucky Lake for sponsoring the car this year. James Bird Racing putting it all together. It's been a great season. Finishing podium third there is nice, but felt like I had a winning car. Richard was fast up there too. Unfortunately, he's the guy I got to beat. So it's going to be a fun last 4 races here.
Looked like you had a big contingent of supporters, family, and friends in the chat tonight. So I'm sure they're happy to see you make your way up to third in the end here.
Yeah, I love it. Love the support.
All right, third place finisher Matthew Long. Congrats once again, and I think we may be talking to Charles Sumner, who finished in 4th place. Rocco, give him a chat. Give him a call.
All right, so we dial up Charles Sumner here. 4th spot. Not a bad run for you, sir. 5th, excuse me. I apologize. You're 4th in order. 5th on the track. Not a bad. Top 5. How you feel about tonight?
Really happy with tonight. Honestly, when we had that really long green flag run, I was going to be really happy with a boring 4th place finish, but chaos ensued and had a really exciting last 20 laps, and I'll take an exciting 5th. It was pretty good.
Yeah, we saw a lot of fuel mileage concerns up until that last caution. That kind of put that out of the way. Had a couple of the guys talk about setups tonight. Anything special on the setup for you tonight?
Really, the thing special with the setup tonight was this was the first time me and a few of my teammates really dedicated ourselves to, instead of just getting a setup and trying to adjust ourselves to it, put in a lot of laps, a lot of open races and NIS, and really get the setup to our liking. And it showed tonight, and there was a lot of excitement.
Yeah, a lot of guys showed a lot of comfort in this race. I don't know, Martinsville, kind of a chaotic breed there, but this was a little bit more smooth. Guys looked a lot more, comfortable with the speeds and everything. Anything unique about Kansas? Anything you like? Anything you dislike about it?
Really, the only thing to dislike is, depending on your setup, just those grooves. A lane up from the bottom and then a lane down from the top. If you hit those progressive bankings just the wrong way, it can upset you. But otherwise, I think too, a lot of people tend to practice a lot single run, but with a track like this that's almost flat out for 20 laps, you really got to get that car balanced in a group in a lot of dirty air, and starting those runs are so crucial to make sure you don't burn it up and you can go 50 laps and still have your right rear intact.
A good insight. So, Charles, before I let you go, a couple more questions. First one, favorite drink of choice, either adult beverage or not?
Well, obviously, Tropicana products go up number 1. Adult beverage, don't sleep on Tropicana lemonade tangerine with a splash of tequila. Delicious.
I am absolutely thrilled to be able to provide that setup. Last question, anybody else that you'd like to thank before we let you go tonight?
First and foremost, you guys at GSRC every week putting on great shows for us. Love the long partnership that we've had with you guys. Butt Kicker, NinjaTrader, Race Lab, SimMSA, Web Herring Center, everybody who supports the PRL, makes all of our leagues possible throughout the week. And lastly, shout out to Tropicana for letting me rep the logo week in and week out.
We know who's going to have a full fridge by the end of the week. Charles, have a great night, man. Fun watching you tonight.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Well, Rocco, Orange, you glad we had such a fun race tonight?
I am, and I do believe I'm going to go get some Tropicana out of the fridge. Why not?
Always good to get your vitamin C. But just like to thank everyone for tuning in tonight. Thanks to all of our drivers, thanks to all of our viewers, and thanks to SimMSA, SimMSA.net, NinjaTrader.com, and TheButtKicker.com. And thanks to companies that provide the software and hardware for our broadcasts that are listed here on your screen. Additional thanks go to June Lalonde, who provides our wonderful music. See the screen for how to get a hold of more of her wonderful work. Thanks to the entire team who helped to put on this broadcast today, and thanks to our viewers for tuning in. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, including upcoming races, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com, or you can check out our social media through the outlets listed at the bottom of the screen. And if you'd like to support the channel, go check out our merchandise store at simracingmerch.com/GSRC. The link is in the description below. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel as well, so you don't miss a moment here on GSRC. Next race for the PRL NASCAR Cup Series is at Darlington, Sunday, May 9th at 8:20 p.m. Eastern. And we also have upcoming races for other series listed on the screen, so check those out and mark them down in your calendar. I believe also on GSRC right now, the Major Series Americas region is running the Nürburgring 2.4. They're still running there, so don't go anywhere and watch more racing action here in GSRC. Well, for Rocco Stallone, Zach Johnson, and Dougie Beard, I'm Joey Tebbett. So until next time, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.